partnership. I like that word. We're here. We're with you. Thank you for that partnership over the years and for the continued partnership. But this partnership is not just about yesterday or today. And I really want to end by looking forward and what tomorrow holds. Listen, we've set ourselves, a very ambitious goal. Huh? We aspire to be an African beacon of prosperity. There is this drive. There is, you see that in every Ethiopian, from the leadership to the youth, the kids, that an Ethiopian project is going to work out. We're going to succeed. Ethiopia will make it. We believe, in fact, to borrow, the MC's word, Ethiopia is a mega trend, a country that is on a path to prosperity with commitment, with clarity, with conviction. So I want to ask you, probably as a last question, what do you think the future holds for Ethiopia and Ethiopians? And what does it require to realize this ambitious vision that we've set for ourselves? Sam, let me start with you.
I think Ethiopia, at least judging from these reforms, is on the right path. And the future is hugely promising. You are already an undisputed leader when it comes to reforestation through the Green Legacy globally. You already lead in terms of industrial parks in the continent and setting yourself on the path to be a leader in manufacturing. And I believe at the rate you are already going in terms of food sovereignty, I think in our own lifetime we'll see a situation in Ethiopia where food sovereignty is realized. Your market size is huge, and that puts you in a better position in the continent to lead in terms of regional market. So what are some of the things that probably stand in the way that is required for you to actualize this great promise that is in sight for this beautiful country? First, it's important to begin to strengthen the public-private platform, a concrete platform for continuous dialogue between the government and the public sector and the private sector will be absolutely important as you transition into this market-driven economy. Second, I think it's important to be more intentional to seize the regional market. The African Continental Free Trade Area is your ground. It's a ground in which you can exercise dominance and leadership. If anything, we can just ask Ethiopian Airlines, the king of the sky, and you can also be the king of the regional market if you are able to better position yourself through the CFTA. But most importantly, I think it will help if you galvanize the entire country around this great promise. I think there is still an anomaly between what happens in Addis and what happens in many of the regions. So that coherence across the country will give you a great momentum leading to this future that you have already envisioned for yourself. Lastly, I think the journey you are on is historic, but all reforms, as I underscored, are volatile. It takes leadership to sail the ship of society through the turbulence of reform. It also takes citizens' momentum and citizens' leadership to sustain that reform. All of this will help in a profound way in an environment of peace, reconciliation, and unity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. That's quite impressive. Mariam.
This is a country I visited 35 years ago when my parents lived here, as you mentioned. But the transformation since then has been enormous. In recent years, the process of transformation was more challenging, but here we are today, 1 month after a historic reform, looking ahead to the future. And it can be a bright future for Ethiopia. However, there is a much unfinished work to truly harness Ethiopia's economic potential and to harness the talent of the country's young population. Much more work will be needed to expand opportunities for the private sector and private sector growth and investment, integrate more with regional and global markets, and reduce the state's dominance in the economy. An equally enormous challenge is to reverse recent declines in human capital and expand access to better quality public services across the country. This challenge is made harder by Ethiopia's continued vulnerability to external shocks, the persistence of conflicts within the country and climate shocks, the impact of which will grow in intensity and scale. The recent drought, the most severe in 40 years, devastated people in the arid pastoral areas. Flooding has damaged infrastructure and disrupted livelihoods. Per the World Bank estimates, climate change will shave off, on average, 1 to 1.5% this decade from GDP, rising to 5% in the 2040s, and push millions below the poverty line. Given these challenges, it is therefore critical that the government ensures that the foreign exchange reforms take root, debt restructuring is completed, and that fiscal pressures are managed. That it widens the structural reform agenda to make sure that the people and economy benefit fully from the reforms. Reforms are the best chance to build resilience to shocks. To succeed, the private sector's role in future growth must increase. That it mobilizes resources from development financing. Ethiopia's tax to GDP ratio fell below 7% of GDP last year, among the lowest in the world, and insufficient to finance health, education, roads, infrastructure needed to build human capital. That it invests deeply in state capacity to implement reforms and deliver public services, including local government level, at the local government level. Finally, despite these challenges, and as I said it earlier in this discussion, but I will say it again, I am optimistic about Ethiopia's future. It has become a cliche to say that the country has untapped potential, but how can we not say that about Ethiopia? Fertile land, proximity to high-income markets in the Middle East and Europe, a young population, boundless resources, and the example of Ethiopian Airlines, a shining example of effective management globally. Ethiopia's flowers, its fruits, its vegetables can take on the world while boosting incomes for some of the poorest households in the country. Its boundless water resources could generate energy, exports that light up homes and businesses all the way to Durban. With the right investments in agriculture and water, Ethiopia can drastically cut the risk that its future will be defined by persistent famines and droughts, but instead by an ability to feed everyone within the country and millions more beyond. Another myth that I have seen, that Ethiopia will be persistently dependent on the outside world for foreign exchange and investments. I would push back and say, if Ethiopia continues with the same determination to continue implementing bold reforms, the opportunities for Ethiopia and its people are endless. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ashley, what does the future hold for us?
Thank you. I think I'm going to build on what Mariam was saying and say, what does the future hold for Ethiopia? Frankly, the sky's the limit. But what's required to realize that vision? Peace, peace, and again, peace, including a genuine effort to follow through on the government's commitments on transitional justice and a commitment to hold perpetrators of human rights violations to account. To build a prosperous future for all Ethiopians, it's important to confront past atrocities and address the root causes of conflict. Healing requires acknowledgement, reflection, and accountability, paving the way for a peaceful and prosperous Ethiopia. Canada is undergoing its own experience of truth and reconciliation right now, and I can say it's not an easy path, but it's an essential one. We look forward as development partners to launching the demobilization and reintegration of ex-combatants very soon, and we acknowledge that much remains to be done to end ongoing conflicts in Oromia and Amhara. Beyond peace, what is needed? For me, there's a few key components. First, as I noted before, Ethiopia will not grow and prosper if half its population is not able to reach its full potential. I can tell you with certainty that I would not be here speaking to you today had I been married at 14. Girls want to go to school. They want to pursue their dreams. Let's support them in those goals. Second, a healthy population is a population primed for prosperity and growth. Expanded access to quality health services for all, but especially for women and girls, is a priority for Canada. Third, increased tax revenue. No one, including me, wants to pay more taxes if we think they'll be wasted. But an economy cannot grow without investments in infrastructure and other inputs that only government can make. Tax collection must be fair and transparent, of course, and people need to believe their money is being spent on things that will make a difference and improve their lives. One of those key pieces is the fourth area I want you to consider. It's something in which all industrialized nations have invested heavily, and both the Minister of Education and Miriam have pointed to it today. It's education. You have over 100 million people in this country. Your potential is vast. By improving access to quality education, including technical and vocational training, Ethiopia will be primed to meet the challenges of the 21st century. And finally, sustaining the reform momentum and implementing reforms at all levels will mean faster, more sustainable growth that is seen and felt all across the country, from Addis Ababa to the smallest village. So let me close by saying that together, all of you in this room have the power to shape the country for the next generation. As you make the trade-offs that are part of governing, I hope you'll consider the wise words of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he said, "When young people succeed, we all succeed." So together, let's make the investments that young people need to achieve their potential and lift all of Ethiopia up with them.
Thank you so much. Tobias, you have the last word.
Yes, thank you. So I want to come back to the point about this being a homegrown reform agenda that all others also have been emphasizing. This is important because that homegrown element is so critical for the success of the reform agenda. What we see time and time again across the world is that wide-ranging reforms are only successful when countries themselves are in charge. Reform is only effective when countries are fully committed and have full ownership over the policies that are being implemented. Ethiopia has always been fiercely independent. This is a country with people of remarkable determination and a record of achieving what they set out to do. This bodes well for the reform agenda. The gains that Ethiopia stands to gain from its reform efforts are massive. The success of Ethiopian Airlines, as others also have pointed to, show what can be achieved when Ethiopia engages with the rest of the world. With the reforms now underway, we hope to see similar successes also in other areas. A rebound in exports out of Ethiopia and investment into Ethiopia are just some of the benefits that we can expect. This will bring jobs and income to people. Gains will not happen overnight. It will take time for the economy to adjust to a new market environment. And it'll be important that macroeconomic conditions remain conducive. Among others, this requires continued vigilance on keeping inflation in check. It also means moving ahead with plans to increase government revenue to ensure that there are funds for needed public spending. It will not be easy, but I think important to recognize here that big and difficult steps have already been taken.
Thank you so much, Tobias. This has been a very interesting panel, but before I conclude, I want to do one thing. I'll bring in Minister Shide to say a few words, but before that, I would like to invite a couple of our partners, not to ask questions because we're concluding the panel, but to reflect, if any. But before Minister Shide,
yes.
Before him, one or two people, anybody? Probably I would put Paul on the spot. Paul, from David. Just few remarks.
Well, thank you. As previous co-chair, I've now handed over to the wonderful Ashley, who's done a fantastic job in summarizing some of the points. I won't take up more time. I just want to add my emphasis to all of the points that have been made. The sky truly is the limit. There are deep challenges out there, but the progress, the determination that we've seen, it's great to celebrate success like we are today. There's a huge amount of work. Everybody in this room has been working really, really hard to deliver the reforms and to make the progress that we've seen. But we know that the work starts now. The challenge for the next 6 years is going to be as hard, if not even harder than the last 6 years. But the momentum that you've all achieved is really, really commendable. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe USID quickly and...
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, and just thanks for the panel for your reflections and ideas. I think if I'm going to maybe make one point, is just to reiterate what Ashley said, and that's just the importance of peace and of resolving conflict in peaceful ways through peaceful dialogue, and just looking at all of the incredible potential I think that our guests talked about. Making sure that those opportunities to be part of those success extend to everyone in the country, both geographically, through gender, through marginalized communities. I think when we think about success more and more, and I think about USAID and the messages from our administrator, it's really about making sure that any development journey includes everyone. And so I think that being a focus with so much ahead of it, to focus on that aspect, I think would be the message I would want to leave with everyone. And just also the optimism about what truly is this country is capable in achieving in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shide. I also want you to touch upon the society we try to build, among other things, in your remark, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eyob, for excellently moderating this session. For me, the quality of thoughts that has been generated by our development partners, I was listening very carefully, and they are very, very much important. And that is the spirit with which we have been engaging on our reform agenda. Just to remind you, our reform is comprehensive. It's not only about economic reform. It's much beyond that. And what you have listened this morning is a glimpse of it. The way we are approaching the situation is development of political institutions, about legal accountability, notion of justice, development of state institution itself is fundamental occasion of our reform. That's why we have a dialogue commission. That's why we have a peace agreement in the north. That's why consolidation and sustaining peace is very important. The other dimension is the social aspect of our reform. Education, health, gender empowerment, inclusive development, development of collective identity, development of citizenship collectively is going to be also part of the equation. So social cohesion, collective identity is very important. So our reform is about state transformation. Our reform is about social transformation. Our reform is development of the state and the whole political institution of the country in an environment where regional economic integration, regional peace is also very much important, because Ethiopia, with the largest economy, the largest population, the largest territorial size, are neighboring a lot of countries in the Horn of Africa, more than anyone, and shouldering regional peace building, regional peacekeeping in our region. So that aspect is also very important. Ethiopia is also a founding member of United Nations, a founding member of most of international institutions, and as a very responsible international state actor, Ethiopia will continue to play its role. Your voices on peace, sustaining peace and accountability is very important. That is also part of our agenda. Sustainable peace is anchor of our development, both for economy, for society, for the development of political institutions. Empowerment of women. When Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed has constituted his first official cabinet, he made half of the cabinet women. The head of state is woman. The head of the Supreme Court president was woman. And also that has been translated mostly to the regional government as well. In Ethiopian history, there is more women in the leadership than any government in Ethiopian history. That's not enough. Inclusive development has to take care of women's voices, women's rights, protection of women, whether it is in urban or rural, whether it is a pastoralist or farmer. So be assured, the issue of women is also, women empowerment is very much important. Equitable development, inclusive development is very important. The foundation of Ethiopia is diversity, whether it is geographic, whether it is ethnic, whether it is religious, whether it is livelihood. All forms of livelihood are very important. That's why, for example, now, pastoralism, before this change, government was trying to transform pastoralism into sedentary agriculture. Now pastoralism is considered as a sustainable way of life, but we need to modernize it through education, through infrastructure, through improved governance services, integrating pastoral areas into the national economy so that it can not only be part of the national cohesion, but also it is a border area. Peaceful borders, peaceful societies in borders is a cornerstone of regional economic integration, regional peace building, because Ethiopia is not isolated. Most of the society in Ethiopia is also the same societies that make up our neighboring countries. So be assured, the issue of accountability, peace is very important. The issue of taxation, enhanced government services, predictable policy on tax, custom, or related issues are very important. So revenue, investment, export, enhanced service delivery for inclusive and sustainable development within a stable macroeconomic environment is very important. Therefore, be assured, our reform is very comprehensive and spans all sectors of society, economy, and development of state institutions in a sustainable peace and national unity with cohesive society also in the horizon. I'm very much also encouraged with your support, and I would like to, on behalf of the government of Ethiopia, I would like to thank you for the support of our development partners. Some of the development partners were very proactive even to support us in difficult periods. But most and all of them were always supportive in one way or another. Your voices, sometimes even critical voices, we see it as a very necessary input for our consideration in terms of our reflection. Reflection is very important, I fully agree. And be assured, we value your sustained support. Ethiopia has benefited from its excellent relationship with our development partners, and particularly with this comprehensive, strong, bold reform, we need your sustained support, both in terms of resources, in terms of debt restructuring, in terms of facilitating investment, in terms of capacity building, in terms of enhancing domestic revenue and improving public investment as well. Therefore, we value our partnerships, and as a critical, important friend, we also respect your views. The fundamental objective, there is similarity. You need peaceful Ethiopia, sustainable Ethiopia, inclusive Ethiopia. That's that peace with self that can grow, attract investment, and be an anchor of regional stability and regional economic integration. We value very much. We thank you very much. With this note, I would like to thank you very, very much. And Dr. Job, thank you for excellent moderation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shide. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a fascinating panel. We've taken stock of Ethiopia's reform journey over the last 6 years. We found it to be a journey of significant reform, sweeping reforms across political, social, economic spheres. A reform journey that has translated into meaningful gains in social reforms, in political reforms, in creating a cohesive society, as Minister Shide was alluding to, in creating a country where everybody feels equally represented. I think this is a significant shift. The political shift in Ethiopia's landscape is quite significant. Everybody, regardless of their ethnic background, regardless of their gender, regardless of their geographic location, the center-periphery dichotomy has been completely changed because of the reform that came in Ethiopia 6 years ago. The gender dimension was profound. You know, I always say this because it's really important, dear to my heart. When the Prime Minister decided to change the cabinet to women, at least half of the cabinet to women, I had to leave my post as a planning minister. But that was the most exciting day. Honestly, I went back home and I told my daughter, I'm really happy today because we are creating a country where my daughter would have equal chance, or in fact, at times a better chance than her brother. So this has been a very fascinating journey. Thank you so much for reflecting on this, but also more importantly, for renewing your partnership. We've talked about what the future holds for Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a mega trend. Ethiopia is going to be a beacon of prosperity. It's going to be a showcase, a success story, an African success story. We're determined to do this. There is enough momentum to build on this. And I can see, I can say with almost 100% certainty that we're going to make it. But that journey, that difficult journey ahead of us, requires the kind of partnership we had before. We need to strengthen that in all spheres of our cooperation. But thank you for a very insightful, for thoughtful reflection of our journey and what the future holds and what needs to be done. You've been very thoughtful in your approach, reflective, engaging. I truly enjoyed this panel, ladies and gentlemen. Please thank the panelists for me. Thank you. Have a good day.